Hey, hope you guys been doing well. This is Jeff here. I got a good one for you today. A little bit of a funny story, and the story I wanted to tell is the worst day I had on as a blue collar construction worker. This is gonna be a funny story. I recently was reminded of after hanging out with one of my other construction friends that was on in another trade back in the day as well. I wanted to share this story because this moment, right, like many other folks that work in blue collar, it's one of those moments that kind of haunt you and you think about, and one of those really memorable moments, just crazy things, the darker sides of the society that we live in today. And I figured that I'd just share my story just because it had such an impact on me, not just a negative impact, but also a lot of positive impacts. And I love to just be able to share, what I got out of this day at the end of the video. And if anything else, I hope that the story, even if it doesn't give you a little bit of motivation, I hope that it gives you something just to laugh at and maybe a little bit of entertainment. So here we go. All right. I was at this time, just a little bit of background. I graduated college with my college degree, wasn't able to get a job, and I ended up working in commercial roofing. And I was an estimator type position, small repair assessment type representative rep for the company. So I'm always the first person on site to assess the situation, do any small repairs as needed to get the customer going, and then of course be able to provide a large scale or a small scale scope. And the reminder here is that I worked in commercial roofing, so this wasn't like residential homes. Usually, most of the time, I would just go to like big warehouses, big offices, that kind of stuff. This time, though, I went to a really interesting one. And this is where the story takes place. This place that I go to was actually a major chicken processing plant. The chickens they make at this place, I don't want to name and shame, but the chickens they make at this place that they prepare are chickens that are in pretty much all the grocery stores around the world, or at least in the United States, and definitely one of those really popular brands. And my job that day was to be able to go to they've been having tons of issues, right? And talking with their maintenance facility person, at least our sales reps, talking with them, the information they gave back to the hands-on team, my team, was that, hey, they just have a lot of leak issues and the winter was coming soon. So they wanted to be able to get an assessment, get a fix out there, but wasn't really too sure what was going on. It was about 2 hours away from the East Bay, San Francisco, Oakland Bay Area, out in the countryside. We get up to this facility and right away, I knew this was going to be a bad day. I knew this was going to be a bad day because probably about a mile away, like I kid you not, probably a mile away from this place, we started smelling the stench of dead animals, basically, right? And we were looking at each other, my partner and I were looking at each other, and we were like, hey, please don't tell me this is the chicken coop, the chicken facility, right? And as we drive closer and closer, the smell of dead animals just start getting stronger and stronger. We get to this facility, and we're at this facility, ginormous facility. This place was probably, I could give it a ballpark. The building itself was probably 50, 70,000 square feet, ginormous processing facility for chickens. As we were driving in, we were seeing truckloads full of chickens that were like pre-processed. And even at one point, we saw one of these trucks back into a stall and just lift up, and just like this chickens, just like thousands of chickens just slid out into an area that we couldn't quite see, that kind of thing. And so at least for myself, I had no idea what was going on, right? Because I don't know anything about chicken or farming or processing of any sorts like that. And we get to this facility. First things first, we watch a safety video, which is really suspicious. So we've been onto a lot of job sites where we had to watch safety videos, but to go on the chicken facility processing farm and have to watch a safety video was a little unexpected. I just thought they don't have any sort of, I think they definitely have a lot of large scale equipment to treat the chickens, if you want to put it that way. But definitely we've seen places that were much more dangerous, such as like maybe tree processing, metal making, I don't know, all kinds of different type of factories with maybe chemicals and that kind of stuff as well. And so, surprise to us, we watched the safety. And this kitchen was the strictest area that I've ever been to in my life. It's the first time ever where outside of large manufacturing facilities, we had to walk in a certain path. They had arrows pointing one directional arrows to keep people extremely safe. And we're following the paths and walking throughout the paths. And another reminder, right? We're there to look after the roof and try to assess their commercial roof to see what was going on. And the way we were headed to was like truly one of the deepest, darkest corners of this facility, places like corners of the building and finding ladder space to climb up, spaces that nobody ever tries to go to, that kind of thing. And it was definitely an interesting walkthrough through the facility. And this is where the story gets really tough. As I mentioned to you, this is one of those facilities that had a very strict walking policy. You can only walk on certain paths. So you were forced to walk through certain parts of the facility. And this is one of the major, really bad parts about this event, right? Unfortunately for us, one of the parts that we had to walk through was like the post-process. Let's just put it that way. The post-processing of the chickens. So chicken remains, guts, right? After the chicken has been, I guess, prepped for packaging from live. Guess that's the best way I can put it. They have to have all their remains and that kind of stuff in a certain area. So we're walking up and the stench was just so crazy. And we look up and all of a sudden we see Mount Everest size of chicken guts and remains and hearts and livers and that kind of stuff, right? And we're like, we're looking at the gentlemen that are in that job, working that job, and they just start dying laughing at us while we're getting through. I mean, it was like a couple of my coworkers and one of my coworkers started gagging, and these are no soft guys, right? Like we've been to trash facilities, we've been to recycling facilities, we've been to chemical plant, like anything you can think of, we've probably been to at that point. And for some of the gentlemen, including myself, to start gagging and like instantly, it was just like one of those smells that not only did it smell so crazily bad, the smell was so crazy that it felt like it stuck to your clothes. And I have a funny part at the end of this that I'll talk about, because we do end up having to walk back through this. We had to walk back the way we came. So there was no avoiding this section. Oh man, even thinking about this day is just ridiculous. That wasn't even the bad part. So we get past there, us thinking we're a bunch of tough guys, right? Instantly walk into this room, past this area and start gagging. All the guys in there that are working the facility are just laughing at us. Like they're absolutely laughing. I think this is something that probably happens to them once a week, I bet. I'm sure they have a lot of other maintenance folks out there that have to walk through this area, and it happens every single time. So I'm sure it was like a running joke for them. We get up to the roof, and this roof was the absolute most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. Most roofs are, if you guys know anything about roofing, right, a lot of roofs, as you suspect, are damaged by the weathers. They're old. The area has heavy snow. The area has heavy rain. There's trees around there. The elements are usually the ones that deteriorate the roof very quickly, along with a bad install. This roof was nothing like anything we've ever seen in our life. We get up on this roof and it is like a graveyard of chicken bones and guts and pools of blood, that kind of thing. And our suspicion and what we realized is that from the sheer mass and waste of this facility, a lot of birds, that kind of thing, come and they grab the chicken remains, that kind of thing, which we saw earlier, and they fly them up to the roof and they start chewing them up on the roof. And so there was like fresh bones. There was bones that looked like they've been there for years. Who knows? Just pools of you could just see dried up blood, fresh blood. There was big machinery, just like any other roof, that was like blowing out the fumes of the machines. We were just on this thing and we were like, just absolutely disgusted. We were looking at the condition of the roof. We went over to the area that they were having the most issues with, and it was clear, right? It was just like, it was an area that was congested, that had frequent flyers of animals taking up the remains up there and eating them, and just like over time deteriorated with the meat and that kind of stuff, deteriorated that side of the building. And so for the first time ever, I saw something other than the elements deteriorate parts of the building. Absolutely insane. Of course, we had to touch it, move things around. Absolutely disgusting. And one of those, one of those jobs that I think all our coworkers, everybody probably a couple threw up. Definitely, I gagged probably 20 times just from the sheer smell of the facility. And we spent about probably 2 hours up there because it's ginormous. So imagine us having to walk this ginormous facility, seeing every little aspect of it. On top of that, there was like leaky pipes, that kind of thing. And so who knows, God, what was leaking out of those pipes at the time. And of course, that stuff is just like another day on the job. It wasn't anything crazy. And spend 2 hours, give our assessment. And this is of course, as we head back down, right? This is the moment we dread the most. We dread the most because we knew we were going to have to walk past the chicken waste room once again on the way out. And man, I cannot tell you how funny this moment was. So for the second time around, we were all prepared. We knew what was coming. There was like a safety door, and we knew that the moment we opened that safety door, we had probably about like 100, probably 50 yards of running that we had to do. And me and the guys, we pull our hoodies up, cover our mouth with all our tools. Keep in mind, we have like all this equipment on us, whatever you can think of, drills, measuring tools, extra roofing materials. And we cover up our mouth, and we book it as fast as we can out of this little section of the video. And I kid you not, the guys that were working at the chicken facility, they were like falling over laughing at us. They were falling over. We were like, forget the safety protocol. We're making a run for the other door. And they were like just dying, cracking up, dying, like on the ground laughing at us in that moment. And we get out, and of course, the whole facility stunk. That was just like the most potent area. We get out, and the funniest thing happens, right? We get out where there's these big trash cans. We say bye to the facility manager. We sign out. And my coworker's looking at his gloves, and we're like, hey, we got to throw these away. And so for the first time ever, I worked on this job site. We threw our gloves away. He even threw his hoodie away after that. Now he was wearing his pullover hoodie, and just immediately tossed it straight into the trash. I had to undress, and I put my stuff in the back of the bed so it wouldn't be in the truck with me. After that day, two really funny things happen. I go home, I do laundry, and I smell my hoodie. I'm like, oh man, it like through a wash, this thing still smells like the chicken coop. Is absolutely insane. I've never had that even till this day happen in my life. I'm so glad we ended up throwing those gloves away. That was the right call by him, but I think that for me, I think explaining it doesn't even justify how absolutely insane it was. Like, we've been to trash sorting facilities, some crazy places like that. And for some reason, this was just more foul than trash. Because I think it was just like the freshly decomposing meats, I guess, maybe the bones, that kind of stuff. It was a smell that I've never till this day really had that insane of a smell at that sheer quantity. The smell when you open that door, it feel like you just ran into a brick wall of smell. Even till this day, never experienced something like that in my life, and hope I never will. Another funny thing that happened is that because it's commercial roofing, we usually quote maybe a 60 millimeter thickness. This is the first time ever the sales rep told us to go call our vendor and ask him for the big boy, and the vendor recommended like a 200 mil, which I didn't even know existed at that time. Or maybe it was 150. Anyways, it was like triple the thickness of any facility that we've ever tried to bid before. And then there was no warranty, right? There's usually like a 20-year warranty on these roofs, 25. And they were like, we bid them this crazy bid with this like insane thickness. We got a sample of this. Usually the material is like it's like a white membrane that's pretty flexible. And we got a sample. And I was looking at this thing and I was like, how are the guys even gonna put this on? I can only imagine the application process was incredibly difficult. The bid was absolutely insane. Like, I mean, in the millions, probably triple the regular bid, if not more, than any other facility with no warranty at all. And man, just what an interesting experience. And that's the story of that. And I think what's more importantly is just I wanted to talk about what I got out of that, right? Just being a fresh grad, fresh out of college, unable to get a job and like a desk job or a white collar job with my degree, working at this job really was a moment for me at that time, being 22, 23 years old. The first thing that I recognized that I'm incredibly grateful for is it was one of those rare moments where like you're working a blue collar job and you go to a place and people that have an even worse, like more difficult blue collar job than you, right? Like you thought every day in, day out, you're seeing your job, you're working it, you're like, this kind of sucks. And then all of a sudden you see folks that are like living through something even more insane, to the point where those folks that were laughing at us, I wasn't insulted at all by them laughing at us. And if anything, I applaud them for having to maintain and work through those jobs. I don't think that, most people don't work these jobs. Most people don't work a job like that because that's their calling in life. It's through situations and through circumstances. And for them, right, they've been doing it for so long, that smell has that smell is like second nature to them. And so the next thing I really got out of this was how much I admired those guys that were working in that section of that room that I thought was incredibly just rotten, basically. It was just incredible seeing those folks work that section of the building, because it was almost like a superpower, right? Sometimes we think of people that play basketball, LeBron, or the track athletes, the Olympians, as like the heroes of our world, and their mental strength and their stamina. But every day we forget that we have like almost everyday heroes out there that are out there working these jobs, doing these everyday things, everyday tasks. And I'm sure at one point when they first signed up, it was absolutely disgusting for them as well. And I can't imagine them going for a month straight, 2 months straight, 3 months straight until they built up that mental strength, and how many days they probably went to that job, just like how I was doing my construction job, that they were like physically building mental strength, and how many days they didn't want to show up to their job and probably had nightmares of that smell in the very beginning. And then in the end, overcoming that scent, their body adopting to it, accepting their situation, and doing the work that pretty much feeds us every single day. And so I thought about my own situation, right? Like at that point, I think that I still personally felt like I had a small glimpse of light to be able to go pursue what I wanted to do, which ultimately is what I'm doing now, being a software engineer. And it's like I had a glimpse of light, right? I still had a door that was slightly open. And I realized, and I thought about my own personal thresholds for my own mental strength. And man, it was just like, it was crazy. It was like the first time ever I saw folks that were so mentally strong outside of the folks on TV. And just a quick reminder that there's folks that are doing these incredibly difficult jobs every day that have incredible mental strength, just doing it to be able to feed their family, feed their kids, put food on the table. And I felt that if I had a small opportunity still to be able to provide a better life for myself and my family, I felt like it was the right move to continue to take it. And it was almost like, who am I to not be able to push myself, go study a little more, work towards my passion while I'm still young? And seriously, just the day that I think about those guys every day. I think about that guy that was on the ground, dropped on the ground, laughing at me every single day while I was having probably my worst day on the construction site. And if I could, man, I seriously would go back and thank those guys for that moment. And what's absolutely insane that I feel like, what's absolutely insane is that moment was really big for me. But to them, it was literally just their every single day in and day out, 7 days a week, right? They would even get overtime, try to get extra hours to try to feed their family. And so just a little something to think about. That really honestly keeps me motivated, especially when I think about complaining now, working as a software engineer. It's once you've been to the chicken coop, it almost feels like there's days that I have it tough as well still, just like anybody else. But I think it's good to be able to have those tough days to be able to remind you how far you've come and how you got to be able to pick yourself back up. I hope you guys enjoyed that story. And if you have any questions, and I'd love to hear them. If you have any stories, any crazy days at your job, love to hear it as well. If not, I'll talk to you on the next one. Latest.